done is we've created a program called the iThirst Spiritual Companion, which means that we train people within dioceses to act as the cross between a spiritual director and a recovery coach. So could you imagine if you could knock on the door of any Catholic church, they would be provided with a person that knew how to give spiritual consolation and recovery resource information, right?
Phenomenal. I love the title, iThirst, which is one of the 7 last words of Jesus from the cross. That powerful, that overpowering thirst that he had, which you hear addicts speak about.
So the one thing that I think is so important about understanding recovery is understanding that recovery is love. Loving people where they're at and loving them even when they can't find it within themselves to love themselves. That's where we come in. That's where we are present and there for folks. And it's such a beautiful and blessed thing. My story is one that is really about how God calls people, the least likely of people, to do work that he has in store for them. My name is Keaton Douglas, and I am the founder and the executive director of the iThirst initiative of the missionary servants of the Most Holy Trinity. For many, many years, I was a singer, and I had a great opportunity to perform for many elected officials and great parties and all over in different venues all over the country. I even had an opportunity to sing for the President of the United States twice at inaugural balls. It was really a blessing, and I had a great time doing it. But somewhere along the line, I also I suffered because I lost my marriage unexpectedly, and it sent me into a lot of despair. I was really angry and resentful for a while. I processed a lot of that sadness. And after about 8 years, I had a moment of forgiveness. And I feel like it was that moment of forgiveness that really changed my life. After I began this process of kind of ridding myself of resentment, I started to get in touch with my faith again, and I started to seek out ways to find my faith. I was called to prayer more. His name was Brother Aro. He introduced me to the community at the missionary servants at the Shrine of St. Joseph in Sterling, New Jersey. Aro told me that the founder of their community, Father Judge, was really interested in serving the poor and the abandoned, and that they had been doing so for almost 100 years since their founding. And I think it was at that moment that I realized something that was so important, and that was it didn't matter what brought us to that point of suffering. It didn't matter what had broken us, whether it was drugs and alcohol or adultery. It didn't matter. What mattered was that we all suffer. My call is to serve those that are suffering from addictions and their families. And so it began that I became a regular volunteer with the recovery team at the Shrine of St. Joseph. The hallmarks of any disease of addiction of any sort, whether it's chemical or substance abuse or pornography, the hallmarks of this disease are despair, unworthiness, feelings of shame, feelings of guilt. These feelings at their root are part of one's spiritual condition, so they need a spiritual remedy. Who can better give this spiritual remedy than our church? We needed to do more as a faith community. And so that's where the iThirst initiative came in. iThirst, of course, are some of the last words of Christ on the cross, the fifth of his last 7 utterances. But it also became an acronym. The word thirst stands for the Healing Initiative, Recovery, Spirituality, and 12-step. But there was still one step more that we needed to do, and that was we had to train the rest of the church, with a capital C, how to do the same things that we were doing. So even though it took years, we wrote a curriculum to take men and women, laity and clergy, and educate them into the nature of this disease as a spiritual disease with devastating psychological and physiological ramifications. In 2017, the missionary servants of the Most Holy Trinity recognized the iThirst initiative as one of their core missions. Their commitment to the iThirst initiative shows that they understand that this is a 21st century manifestation of the work that Father Thomas Judge, their founder, has always done, always recognizing the poor and the abandoned. The people that have suffered from substance use disorders in particular have lived in the abyss of addiction and have been isolated for so long that the role of the church is to work in these great societal maladies. The church not only has a role, but an obligation to help those who are trying to find their way home. And it's up to us to welcome them back. And it says, I hear you. You're important. Because for too long, the vulnerable and the marginalized haven't been heard, especially this population. So we want to say, we're listening. We're listening.